Well, good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Snowmobile Memories and Snowmobile History and Memories. We were just talking about our memory and how in our advancing years it gets a little fuzzy. There's a prime example right there.
Yeah.
But we're here with our good friend Midge Rosebrook. How you doing tonight,
Hi,
Midge?
folks.
Well, cool, cool. So yeah, let's get right into it. I'm going to show you the menu for the evening here. What we're going to be talking about. Item number one is we're going to view and discuss the induction of Ron Hall into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. This was back in 2019. And Midge, did you want to set that up before we play that induction clip?
Yeah, Ron Hall was part of the Team Abold Arctic Cat racing team back in the 70s, and along with Herb Yancey and Chip Elwood. And it was he was a member of the winningest snowmobile racing team in history. They I think in some ways did better than some of the factory teams back then. And Ron Hall played a big role. I think he won like 17 races in a row in like 1975 or something like that. But he started out, here he is on a rup. This is his first win at the Adirondack Cup on a rup for Bill Abold. And I think that very next year, Bill changed over from rup to Arctic Cat. And they began racing Arctic Cat and stayed with them, stayed with that brand for the rest of the time.
And did
But
very, very well. Yeah,
yeah, Ron was one of the best. Yeah,
definitely. I've got a couple
and
of
there
more
he is.
images of
He's
him back in the
kneeling
day
down. That's Ron
in the center
down
there. Yeah.
kneeling. And right over Ron's right shoulder, if you will, is Bruce Borovage. Uh,
Oh yes, yeah.
we used to sort of help out with that team back then. He raced out at Cat as well. He wasn't part of the team, but he used to, join in with the team members at one time or another. Herb Yancey's in there. I think that's Herb on the far left.
Yes, in the back.
Beard, yeah, that's Herb. He was a member of the team.
And
And
is that Roger?
Bill
Is that
Abold, the mastermind of that team, is right next to the guy with a white jacket. He's to the
on the right?
left of
Right.
that guy with the white jacket, the white coat,
Yeah.
standing. That's Bill.
And I think
And
Roger Poulin's in there too with the big pockets, the light colored coat with the big pockets. Is that Roger Poulin?
I'm not, that could be. Yeah, it could very well be. Yeah, but it might be. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, because
Wow, there's some
people
big names
change.
in there. It's true, and that was what over 50 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
And then we've got some more recent images of him. That's him in
yeah,
the middle. There's some legends there as well, new and old.
yeah,
There's Bill Nast on the left there.
yeah,
He's the father of Lucas Nast, which is the tallest of the group.
yeah.
And then in the red shirt is our good friend Paul Lamontagne.
Paul Montang, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and then Spencer Beatty on the right there.
Yeah, yeah. Spencer and Lucas are headed to Eagle River in another month and a half or so.
Yeah,
And Ron is right there in the middle in a green shirt.
and then
Yeah.
just to prove that he has friends in low places.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Couple
here
of
he is.
characters to his right there.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
and Lucas Nast also.
yeah. Lucas. Yeah,
Yes, that was a
yeah,
wonderful time, by the way. That was a great
yeah,
time.
yeah.
But
How can you not have a bad time at the motel? You can't not have a good time at the motel.
it's true. It's true, and they've been
Yeah,
very kind to us, hosting after parties and doing what they
very
can to
kind.
facilitate. And that's a great reason to put up their logo here,
Yeah,
the Lancaster Motel in Lancaster, New Hampshire. they've been involved in racing and snowmobiling from the very beginning.
Yeah,
So if you're planning a trip out east, please consider utilizing them. And they're just a short walk away from Crane Snowmobile Museum. And I've got a graphic for that. Let's give them a little love. And we've also got some comments coming in. Let's take a look at that, and then we'll take a look at that induction of Ron Hall. But we've got our good friends Stacy and Art Fosler in the house saying, "Hey guys, sounds good," from Plattkill, New York. Appreciate your being on here.
Yeah.
Also, Joey Pelletier saying, "Salut, Mike." Yes. And then also our good friend Tim Bewick is here saying, "Hi guys from Marlborough, New York." Outstanding. Well, cool. Anything else we need to discuss before we play this clip of Ron Hall being inducted?
No, I think let's watch the clip and then we can discuss that afterwards.
All right. Oh, in a matter of context, Midge, who's here with us tonight, is the founder of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, and we're about to see Ron Hall inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. Let me pull that up here. Yeah, right here.
Ronald Hall. Ronald Hall, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2019. He began racing in 1970 on local upstate New York tracks. Ron was offered a factory production Thunderjet 440 in 1972. Had highest points for any Thunderjet in Mod 3 in USSA East. Began racing RUP and later Arctic Cat for the legendary Team of Bold in 1973. Ron is still the only driver to win the Adirondack Cup twice. He won a Kilkenny Cup in Mod 1 at the 1975 Lancaster Grand Prix and took first place in Mod 3 at the 1975 World Series. He still holds the record for most USSA points ever in one season. Ron Hall still holds a record 15 straight feature wins in Mod 1. He wore gold bibs number 1, 3, 4, 8, and 22 during his racing career. In 1977, while racing in 5 different classes, Ron took 22 first place, 12 second, 7 third place, and 7 fourth place finishes. Ironically, in only his first year of racing in stock, Ron broke a spindle crashing into the wall at Eganville, Ontario, Canada on February 5th, 1977, ending his amazing career, and left the sport with over 150 first, second, and third place trophies in just 7 years of racing. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ron Hall.
If I could have just a few minutes of your time, yeah, I'm trying to think, this week what I might say to everyone here, but I'd like to honor some names, say some names that through my career that helped me out, just voice their name in this Hall of Fame here, if you bear with me. My early years, and I started out, but I never sat on a snowmobile until I was 27 years old. I started with my boss, the Courier Corporation, was a part of a dealership in Syracuse, and Phil Richardson and his brother-in-law had a dealership in Syracuse. There they'd sold, the heyday of snowmobiles, they sold 1,500 new units a year back then. You go to, when you went to Boondale and stuff, you would have 5,000 or better spectators. You'd have 880 entries. It was, everybody here knows it was big back then, And then I got a ride with this Snowjet there the next year, and Ronnie Cornell and Vern Conway, Aero Marina, and Night of Lake. And then from that, the next year, Bill Abel called me up and wanted me to run a RUP. He had, you know, a good deal with RUP. It took us a while to get it figured out, but it turned out to be a good year with the RUP. And then that started our, he was sponsoring it through A&P Auto Parts, that's what he owned. And from there, we went on, that was the beginning of Able Racing, Able Team Able Racing. And from there, you know, Herb Yancey, Chip Elwood, and I were racing, and all these names that I'm going to mention now are names that help all three of us. And it's Charlie Hemans and Al Conklin, and my wife's uncle was our best man. He died at 42 with cancer. He was down helping me about every night down to my house. And and then of course Bill, you know, he worked night and day. He's still racing. He's 81, 82 years old. He's still racing in Star, super modified cars. He's got 2 grandsons that are still racing. He's still doing it today. I don't know how he does it, you know. And another person I want to mention is my head cheerleader, my daughter. And then I got this gal that's been following me around here for 57 years. Anybody that's been in the racing, you know, it's hard on the marriage life. You know, she went with us just about every week.
Ron's wife.
And our two children too. We did it a family deal.
And her son.
Yeah, and my son, he's got a thumb that's bent right backwards from building tracks. You know, you're short. I never seen anybody who can bend a thumb backwards, but he does it. You know? Well, I sure appreciate this, and I appreciate you guys having this here. It's just a marvelous idea. You know, it brings back a lot of nice memories to everybody. You know, thank you so much.
Terry, would you go up and take a picture, please? So we can take a picture of you too?
Now?
Thank you.
Ron brought up a good point about the ladies, the wives. These guys will tell you they couldn't have done it without them. They're the real heroes in this whole thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So there we go. Ron Hall inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame circa 2019. And yeah, any thoughts to add to that, Midge? Or?
Yeah. If you don't think this doesn't mean something to these people, when you see Terry wiping the tears from her eyes and Ron getting emotional, it's all worthwhile, because it was way too long before these people were recognized. We waited way too long. Now, Ron had a couple of people. I think Rick Simula was involved, and I can't think of the guy that also was involved in trying to get Ron Hall into the Midwest Hall of Fame. I don't have anything against the Midwest Hall of Fame. You know, they've inducted all the right people out there, but they really forgot us out here. And this is a reason why Paul Crane and I did this. It was because of these Eastern drivers that just never got recognized. And Ron Hall deserves to be in the Midwest Hall of Fame. But Herb Yancey's in our Hall of Fame. In fact, Herb was inducted at the same time as Ron, along with Bob Fortin, and Claude Hebert was inducted that year, the Eastern driver. And yeah, well, it's nice to see these people. You know, they realize now that, you know, we didn't forget them. that era wasn't forgotten.
Yeah,
You know.
that means a lot.
Yeah.
Even with so many years that have gone by, it's still worth
Yeah.
doing. It still makes it special. And while I've
Yeah.
got this paused here, that's Paul Crane on the very left there. He co-founded this with you. It was your idea, but he co-founded it with you, and he hosts the Hall of Fame every year at Crane
Yeah.
Snowmobile Museum. In fact, where's my? Here we go. Opportunity to plug the museum. And then the other thing I wanted to focus on is there are some other greats sitting amongst them, like these two gentlemen behind them.
Yeah. Bobby Martin and Bob Clark.
Yes.
Yeah. Martin is behind Ron there in the yellow jacket, and Bob Clark is behind Terry. And
we're going to be looking at Bob Clark's induction a little later tonight. In fact, he was the first one ever to be inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame in 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
And pardon me, we've talked about this before, but one of the really nice things about this Hall of Fame ceremony is inductees who've been inducted previous years come just to be a part of this. It's a wonderful ceremony, but there's also this incredible community that's been built up around it, and it's considered the event of the season for this community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's see if there are any more here that.
And I think that Ron has made I think he's made every induction since this.
Yes.
They come all the way out from New York every year.
Yeah, I think they're out near Syracuse. And I think Calvin Reynolds was there, but I don't know if he's in any of these shots.
Calvin was there too. Yeah.
I'm searching for him. I don't know if.
But he may have been more towards.
He was to the right. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see him. But he was there. I do remember him being there.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a better shot of Paul Crane right there.
That's Paul.
Yeah. And we've got some comments that have come in. Our good friend Eric over at the Benedim YouTube channel, which is one of the places where this is going out tonight. He's saying he's viewing from Camden, New York, and he has us loud and clear. So thank you for that feedback. We appreciate that. Also, our good friend Brian Van Haverbeek from Ontario, Canada is here saying good evening. Nice to see you. Also, our good friend Ben over at Vintage Minibike Lovers is here saying hello, fellas, looking and sounding good. Now, I have to mention the second Sunday every month in this same time slot, we do the Vintage Mini Bike podcast, Ben and I, and also our good friend Rob Hilditch. So if you enjoy those mini bikes from the 60s and 70s, be sure to tune in and join us a second Sunday of every month, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday evenings. We'd love to have you, and I'm sure if you like those mini bikes, you will enjoy that. But now, was there any more we wanted to do on this? Because I've got an interview that I did with Ron Hall that very same day. Is there anything else we want to talk about before we change screens?
No, I think let's watch the interview and then we can go from there.
All right, let's take a second here to pull it up. Right here, yep.
Okay, my name is Ron Hall. I raced snowmobiles from 1970 to 76, 77. I never was one for speed. I didn't like fast cars or anything like that, but my next door neighbor, Jimmy Fonger, which was an excellent racer, I started hanging around with him and changing spark plugs at a race and stuff, got interested in it, and it kind of caught on. I never sat on a snowmobile till I was probably 27 years old, and I started out with skidoos for 1 year. Got offered a ride on a snow jet in 73, I guess it was, and did real good with that. And then Bill Abel from A&P Auto Parts called me up to run a 73 Rupp Magnum, and so I said okay, and it sounded like a good offer, and we raced that and did real well with it. We ended up winning Malone, the Northeastern Championships at Malone, a half-mile horse track, and we went on to Boonville, and it was a 440, and we entered it in the 650 class at Boonville. They had the famed Adirondack Cup there, and so I raced against all the 650s and ended up winning it. Later on and down the road, Herbie Yancey was my teammate on Team Able, and he got second in that race. And that's next year I ran the Adirondack Cup in '74, and they put it into the 440 class, but we had prepared a 650 to go back after it again, and I won the 650 class that year. I had a 650, I won it, but so that was 2 years in a row that I won the 650 class there. But they moved it into they were moving it into the class with the most sleds. So I didn't win the 440 that year. So the next year I had 3 supermods. I went back in '75 and won 3 supermod classes, winning the cup again. So I got 2 of the Adirondack Cups at home. And they're over 6 foot tall. They're a big trophy. Wow. And my prized possessions.
Yeah.
But that was one of the highlights of my career. I'd won World Series classes and stuff. But probably one of the biggest highlights was they had a regular snowmobile program at Weedsport, New York. They had the factories were there. They had a special class that you qualified during the year. You had to win a 440 Supermod class to qualify for this. It was a 50-lap class that they put up quite a bit of money into, and they left 10 positions open, and the factories and stuff could come out and qualify. They had the twin track Manas there, and they had the Arctic Cat factory was there, and we raced the whole program all day long. I raced a 250 class, I raced the 440 class, I raced the 440X, and normally, we had some lightened tracks and stuff trying to go fast, so with all that racing and then plus the 50 laps, my son spent quite a few days building a heavy-duty track. It was nothing. There wasn't anything trick track or anything like that. It was heavy, and for a trail riding event, and that's what I raced all day long. And we ended up. They had 25 sleds. They were parked. It was a Le Mans start. They parked them on a 45-degree angle on the infield, and we back up against the grandstands. The grandstands counted down, 9, 8, 7, 6, and some of the guys took off on 4. But anyways, I got over there, and you had to stick your tender switch on, and you could have a mechanic pull it for you. And my wife's uncle, he was, starting the sled for me, and we started off, and I think it was 20. They had a lap counter because it was a stock car track on, so you knew how many laps you completed. And I think by the 20th lap, I lapped all the factories by that time.
Wow!
But I went on to win it, and it was that was one of my highlights that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that just people. They don't realize how much fun we had back then. The amount of people that would come to those races. They didn't have the sports programs and stuff on television and the cables and all that kind of stuff. I mean, everybody, snowmobiling really hit with a crash, you know. I mean, people, you know, they had 2 snowmobiles. They might not have a car, but they had 2 snowmobiles, you know.
They had their priorities right.
Whole families for the weekend, you know, and you know, we would race, and at Boonville, they'd have 900 entries, you know, and when you come away from there with a win, you know, you knew you were real lucky, and you knew you had real good equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had to have both. And there was a ball racing against the same guys. We've got to be friends every week, you know, that you were down to business and serious on the track, but then afterwards, you know, you're the best of friends.
The real community.
Yeah.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, I really appreciate it.
Okay. I started.
Yeah, there you go, Ron Hall.
Yeah, yeah,
That's some great story about that race he was talking about,
yeah,
and lapping all the factory teams. That's
yeah.
going to be satisfying.
Like I said earlier, Team Abel did sometimes better than the factory teams.
That's amazing.
They were actually the winningest team back then in the history of the sport. I mean, those 3 drivers, they were. I mean, look at Herb Yancey had number 2 bib for a few years, and Ron Hall had a number 1 bib, and you know, there were 5,000 active drivers in USSA back then. How good do you have to be?
Yeah.
To beat 5, maybe because in e-race in 2 or 3 different classes. And, you know, like you just said, you had 800 or 900 entries at some of those venues. And you've got to race, you've got to race 5 or 6 heat races just to qualify for the feature. And in each class. So to end up with a number 1 bib back in those days, you had to be very, very good. You had to be in shape.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had to manhandle those sleds around the track.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't have the traction products like they have now. And
Sure.
the tracks weren't like they are now.
It was all body English.
A lot of body English. And what Ron didn't just say when he said he won the 2 Adirondack Cups, now I may be wrong in this because I'm not up on, you know, the modern era of racing out in Boonville. But up until a couple of 3 years ago, Ron Hall is the only guy in history that won the Adirondack Cup twice.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
So that's how tough that race was.
Yeah. And also, just to speak of him as a person, he and his wife, Terry, come to the induction ceremony every single year, and gotten to know them personally as friends. And it's always great to see them and visit with them.
They
Terry's
are the
really
nicest
nice.
people in the world.
Yes. Yep. Some of the
Yeah.
nicest people you could ever visit with, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where I'm going with that is, if you're intrigued by all of this and you'd like to participate in this Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony that we do every year, it's a wonderful event. The ceremony is wonderful. The community that comes to this is wonderful. There's inductees past, present, and future that are there. It's kind of a who's who of Eastern racing. If you'd like to join us with this, it's every September. What is the date of the next one, Midge?
This coming year, I'm not exactly sure yet, but it's going to be, it's always the weekend after the Lancaster Fair.
It's usually the second Saturday in September,
be
maybe?
the second weekend in September. Because the Lancaster Fair runs, I think, on the first weekend in September. So it's the second weekend in September, whatever date that is, on a Saturday.
Yes. Let me take a look here. I've got a calendar that I can access.
9th,
So
maybe.
September 6th is the first Saturday. September 13th is the second Saturday of September.
Okay, so it's 13th then.
Yeah, unless it's the last weekend in August, the Lancaster Fair. Is that possible?
No, they always have it on Labor Day weekend.
Oh, they do. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. All right. Well,
Yeah.
good. And if there's any question, just reach out to either Midge and I on social media. There's also a phone number in the description of this podcast. Reach out to us, and we'll help you. We'll keep you in the loop as this
Right.
develops. And if you watch these videos on a regular basis, we will have updates with exact times, dates, locations, all of this. It's usually at Crane Snowmobile Museum, though.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and we hope that you will join us. It's a wonderful experience, and you actually get to meet Ron Hall and some of the others, and you can walk right up to him and say hi,
Walk
and
right up to him, shake hands with him.
Get a photo opportunity. Yeah, it's just
And
a very
Paul Crane opens his museum up that day, no charge. If you want to put a little donation in the donation box, certainly you can do that to help out. Buy a T-shirt, or something like that to help out the Hall of Fame and the museum. But everything is free. There's no charge to come, and you get to tour the museum and to look at the Hall of Fame wall. And we have, I don't know, we've got almost 40 people up there now, don't we, Mike?
Yeah, we just did I think it was year number 8 this past September.
Yeah.
7 or 8, I think it was. And yeah, that wall is filling right up. A lot of notable people on the wall there. And if you're planning to come, we do ask that you bring your own lawn chair.
Yeah, bring your own chair.
And good idea to arrive early so you can stake out a good spot for your lawn chair, but also you'll have time to mix and mingle with people and go inside the museum and look around. Be sure and allow yourself plenty of time. It usually starts at 1:30, but you want to get there, I would say, at least at 1.
Yeah.
So, like I said, you can get a good spot for your chair and then mix and mingle, walk around inside the museum. Yeah.
It's usually an outdoor ceremony. And if it's a nice day, nice weekend, but if it's not, and it looks like rain, we always we have the use of the commercial hall up at the fairgrounds, Lancaster Fairgrounds, which is about a mile north of where the museum is on Route 3 North.
Yeah, that's a great spot too.
So either way, the show is going to go on. Either way,
we do have a plan B if the weather is not cooperating.
Right.
For sure. And then we've got a couple of comments that have come in. Let's see. David from Alaska Railroad says, "Good evening to Mike and Midge. Nice to see you."
Good evening.
And then Dan Skofich says the T-Jets rocked. Would that be the Thunder Jets? Is that what he's talking about?
Yeah, Thunder Jets.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron raced, and I believe that he, with that Thunderjet that year, I think he got the most points of any Thunderjet rider in the East.
Wow.
With that.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, one of the Eastern greats for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, cool. So let me switch screens here. We're about to do item number 2, but I've got something I want to do in between there. Let me just get myself situated. I'm going to talk this up a moment. Now, in June, we had a memorial service for my father who passed away in March, and a lot of good friends and family came. Midge came, which I very much appreciate. I know I thanked you privately, but I'd like to thank you publicly as well for coming to that event. And afterwards, we had kind of a meet and greet at the church hall there, and Midge and I were talking, and he said, I've got something for you. And we got kind of chatting around that, and I said, well, is it snowmobile related? He said, yes. And I said, well, is it Arctic related? And he said, yes. And where I was going with that is some of our family friends for over 50 years had shown up at the memorial service as well. And one of the big reasons that I do all this vintage snowmobile stuff is the wonderful memories I have of us riding together with them, as our families riding together, trail riding on Arctic Cats. So that's why I'm a cat guy. That's a big part of why I do this vintage snowmobile stuff is those memories. So you're about to see a video clip where we brought out this family that we used to snowmobile with over 50 years ago, and my brother. That's why I was kind of asking him those questions, because if we're going to do something snowmobile related and cat related, I want them to be part of it because they're here. They were at this memorial service that day. So anyway, that leads you up to about what we're about to do here. So let me cue it up. And then the rest should speak for itself. Let me find, Right here. Okay, sorry. Just the print is
Called you
so
out here
small.
because you were
Yeah.
an Arctic Cat family back in the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
Please continue.
All right, so the Arctic Cat people. Dennis Driscoll approached me. He said, I'm cleaning out stuff around the house. And he said, I came across this thing. And he said, I know you're a Polaris guy. And he said, right away, he said, I thought of you. And he handed it to me, and I thanked him. And I said, you know what? I said, I am a Polaris guy. But I says, I know an Arctic Cat guy that might appreciate this. And I will present this to him. So I told him that Mike LaPierre, who I collaborate with often on the snowmobile end, and so it's in the trunk here.
Wow.
And I'm
Perfect
gonna-
timing that you guys are a cat family too, so
Yeah.
tie it all together.
We did our cat thing together.
We sure did.
Oh, wow, nice.
Wow.
Wow, those
I
are
remember those.
I do too. All the patches that we
Yeah.
used to put on those one.
I used to have a shocking green Arctic Cat jumpsuit. All
Yes,
one
I was going
piece.
to all one piece.
All one
So,
piece.
Yeah.
I think this was a display at an Arctic Cat dealership.
Yeah.
See, because it's got the
Oh yeah. Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
back here.
Yeah.
So
What's
I think
the
it,
copyright on it? Does it say on the back what the copyright?
Early 70s like that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Gotta be, huh?
yeah, I'd say it was early 70s. Yeah. So there.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember you sew all those patches on. Yeah. Mummy would sew those patches
So
on.
there you
I
are,
will
Mike.
gratefully accept this.
Oh,
Thank you so
very
much.
nice.
With all our cat friends here.
Yeah.
Can we get a cat friend picture?
There we go. Where's the little sled behind?
So I'm going to pause it right here. I want to give a shout out to the Page family. Lifelong friends with them. We used to ride together on Arctic Cats in the early 70s. And we've enjoyed wonderful friendship all through the years. Better friends you just could not ask for or find in your life. Just so blessed to know them. So from left to right, we have Linda. She used to babysit my brother and I when we were little. Next to her to the right there is Sunshine, her sister. And then of course that's me holding the patches. To the right there is my brother Brian, and then there's Robert Page in the dark shirt, and then to the right in the plaid is Sunshine's husband Tinam. And just I've known these people all my life, and just like I said, you could not ask for better friends. It was just a wonderful moment, and I'm glad that I asked Midge these questions, because if I hadn't, we would have missed this incredible moment. And I want to thank Midge for that, and I wanted to thank the Page family. And one other quick thing, there are two other siblings that were not there today, Clark and Carol Ann. They lived further away and they weren't able to make it, but we had just as much fun with them on snowmobiles and doing other things as well. Lifelong friendship with them as well. So I wanted to give a great shout out to the Page family, and also a big thank you to Midge for presenting me with this wonderful gift. Anything you wanted to add to that, Midge? Or?
Yeah. Like I said, it was hard to hear me with my back turned there, the audio. But what I said was a friend of mine, Dennis Driscoll, came up with that. And I don't know where he got it, but out of the blue, he shows up and he hands that to me. And he says, I know you're a Polaris guy, but he said, I thought this might be something you'd be interested in. And I didn't think that Paul needed any more patches at his museum, because he's got a double door on the back wall.
Yes, with all that stuff on it.
And Mike can tell you about every patch that was ever produced for snowmobiling is on those double doors. So I didn't really think Paul needed any more patches. And this thing is totally unmolested. That whole thing is engulfed in plastic. It's laminated in plastic. Plastic was never broken, right, Mike?
Correct. Yeah. And the patches are kind of shifted around in there, but the plastic, it would ruin the value if I just
still inside of
it. Yeah, and it would ruin the value if I pulled that plastic off. So I'm happy just to keep it like it is, even though the patches have kind of shifted in there.
Yeah, I think the
So,
patches might have been glued or semi-stuck to that green
yeah,
background at one time to separate them, and then over the years they kind of became unseparated and then kind of jumped together. But it's a strange thing that would be, all in one piece like that after all these years.
yeah, still intact after all these years.
Yeah, it's the one that somebody didn't just rip the plastic and take the patches.
Yeah, tear into that. Yeah, that could have
Yeah,
easily happened over 50 years. And I'm guessing, I'm going to put a question out to the viewers too. I'm guessing this would be circa 72, 73 is my best guess on it. But I'll put
yeah.
it out to the viewers. If you have a better sense of what the timeline might be on this, if I'm
What
off,
year
I don't.
did Cat start using purple as a color?
Oh, good question. I'm
Uh,
going to say 71,
yeah, maybe.
maybe
Yeah.
72. Because I know our 72 Cheetah had the purple trim on it. We had a
Okay.
69. We had a 69 Panther that did not.
Yeah. See.
So I'm thinking 70, 71, 72 in there. And if the
Yeah.
viewers, anyone who's a cat fan, if you know when they started with the purple, please light up our comment section here. And we have a couple of comments. Let's take a look. Oh, yes, our good friends Stacy and Art Fosler saying this is really great. And David at Alaska Road says, very nice. That was nice of you, Midge. And I agree. And
Well, yeah. Maybe you'll get some offers for it, Mike.
yes, I won't let it go cheap. I'll tell you that. This is a treasured item. But I wanted to give a shout out also to our friends Stacy and Art Fosler. I've got an image of them. We met up, I don't know, a month or so ago and had a wonderful lunch with them. My girlfriend and I, they had some friends with them. They were passing through. And we all get together and had a wonderful lunch. It was very nice to meet them. Stacy and Art are the ones on the right in the foreground. And then their friends were with them in the back. And then Carlene and I are on the left there. And we just had a wonderful time with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So anything more on this patch thing before we move on, or?
Well, other than I just can't imagine the thing lasting all these years and still be all in one piece and the I mean, it's just cardboard. It didn't even get bent, or it's there's not even a crease in it.
You're right. It could have gotten bent. It could have gotten wet. It could have had that plastic
Yeah.
broken through.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not even any poke holes or anything in the plastic.
No.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a keeper item for sure.
Yeah.
And our good friend Mad Dog is on here saying this is an awesome cat display, really nice and collectible. Yeah. Yeah, that's a treasured item for sure. So let me get situated here. We're going to look at the menu again. We're going on to item number 2, going back to the 2021 induction of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame, and we're going to see Stephen Fenoff inducted into the Hall of Fame. Anything you want to talk about on this, Midge, before we?
This was our second induction that we had outside, 2020 being the first. When we inducted Ron Hall in those others in 2019, the inside of that museum, which you didn't see, was crowded. There's probably 150 people inside that museum that day.
Yeah.
And so Paul and I decided that we're just outgrowing the inside of the museum to have these inductions. So we determined that maybe we should just have an outside ceremony. So this year and in 2021 that we inducted Steve Fenoff is the second year we had it outside. So
yeah, and being outside, I think it was your stepson that brought a PA system, which
yes,
helped take that to a whole other level with better audio.
Yeah, my stepson Alan Cormier graciously let us use his surround sound since 2020. He used to use that when he had his magic show, and but then he stopped doing his magic shows, and he still had the sound system, and yeah, he let us use it. And I've got it right here at the house.
Nice.
And Mike helps us set it up every year. Mike LAPIERRE here. He gives us a hand getting it working. And so far, so good.
It's a Fender Passport, and it's a Fender Passport, and I've used those plenty in the past. I've done a lot of sound stuff in the past for bands and things like that, and I'm familiar with that PA. The other thing to note is there was a flooring and a kind of a couple of tents that I think it's Greg that brought that.
Greg
right?
Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg Allen.
He's one of the board members
He's a
of the Hall of Fame.
snowmobile enthusiast. He's a
The
collector.
big Polaris guy.
He's on the Hall of Fame board of directors. Has been ever since from the get-go.
Yeah.
And he's also our cameraman.
Yes.
Yeah. So he brings that canopy in the checkerboard floor every year for us. And yeah.
And also, you'll see in the background there are a lot of inductees, past and present, sitting under that canopy there. So just kind of set up the scene here. What we're about to look at. Let me find that. Yeah, here it is. Let's take a look. Stephen Fenoff being inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021.
All right, next inductee. Let me just tell you this. There is probably no better racer in New England than Bob Fortin on that Skidoo. He won the 295 class and the 340 class every weekend, everywhere, for about 2 years, 1970, 1971. It was Bob Fortin that won, and then whoever else filled in on the field, but it was Bob Fortin. So we all knew in the 1971 Grand Prix who was going to win the 295 class and who was going to win the 340 class. It was going to be Bob Fortin. The problem was nobody told Stephen Fenoff. There's a little attic cat up there next to the building with the engine sticking out, a little 71, what do they call those, EXTs? That's an EXT special, and how special that sled was. Because he cleaned our clock here in 1971, and Stephen Fenoff's name is on the Kilkenny Cup. Stephen Fenoff, would you come up here, please? All right, Steve. Stephen Fenoff, inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2021. Steve began his racing career in 1969 on a motor ski for Benoits of St. Johnsbury. After watching him at a race, Paul Calkins of Calkins Cat offered Steve a sponsorship racing for his company. At the 1970 Lake Region Open in New Hampshire, Fenoff, in only his second race on a Cat, took second in a 4-hour endurance race, and the following day, first in the 57-mile cross-country, winning first overall. When Steve finished fifth in Class 2 at the Balsams against larger dealers and distributors on a non-competitive machine, Arctic Cat distributor Rod Hughes stated, "This boy has got to have some engine." Putting Steve Fenoff on a competitive racer was the best thing that ever happened to Calkins Cat. In 1970, Steve won the Devil's Bowl in Fairhaven, Vermont, winning in both Class 1 and Class 2. He raced to a first-place win with his Mod 2 Cat at the prestigious Schaefer's Open Modified race in 1970, winning the Schaefer's Cup. Steve qualified for the first USSA World Series race in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Driving the race of his life at the 1971 Lancaster Grand Prix, Steve won overall in Mod 2, having his name engraved on the famous Kilkenny Cup. Steve finished first in both Mod 1 and Mod 2, winning overall points to take home the Governor's Cup at the Massachusetts State Championship. Steve also grabbed a first place and a second place at the Paul Bunyan Open 2 years running. Steve Fenoff has won a countless number of other races, both sanctioned and non-sanctioned events during his career, making him one of State of Vermont's all-time top snowmobile racers from the golden era. Mr. Steve Fenoff.
Ah, boy, look how young that guy was. First of all, I got to thank everybody. This organization is so great. I'm not as good as some in pulling out everybody's name, but without them, we wouldn't be here, and we got to thank them very, very much. And isn't that right? Matter of fact, let's give them a good hand, all right? They just do the Hawaiians that Carolyn mentioned a lot of times either, and they just help so much. And I've been coming to this, and it's fun. And seeing all the drivers and everything, ladies and men, it's really an honor. It really is. And Lucas brought my machine that I won the Lancaster race with in '71, and that's such a thrill, and thanks to him. And I started out, as he mentioned, it's hard. He reads off all that good stuff, you know. And Benoit you have to thank, because that's where you started. But right here is a gentleman, Paul Calkins. He saw something in me, and that man, thank you. He built my engines and stuff in his just his workshop. It wasn't a dealer or anything. And the Balsam race meant so much, because if it was cross country, I was good. And we won. But when it came to the tracks, we just plain didn't have the horsepower. And Rod came up after that Balsam race, and like I said, we left. There was a big oval, and we left dead last. Went into the cross country. We came out first. Before we got to the finish line, we were fifth. And Rod came up and he says, "That boy does," and that was a big change. He says that boy needs an engine. So he gave us some cylinders, and Paul went to work. And I can say this right out that Paul Culkins built some of the best engines that ever raced.
Yep.
He really did. And the sad part is he didn't get this machine going until about mid-year, and then she really talked, but I couldn't quite get in. But we could have made him really worry at the World Series. That's one that I missed. It was so sad that I missed. But that was a big part of it. And then we went, there's a race I have to mention that wasn't actually sanctioned by this, but it's so big. The first World Series in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. We went to West Yellowstone first. The week before, we drove out, and I was fortunate enough that he hired me to go with the machine so we could take him out, because I didn't have any money to fly out and that stuff. So we went out to West Yellowstone, and it was a huge race. We was in the A mains. There was only 6. I only finished like 4th, but that to us, for being that far away and everything was super. Then we went to Rhinelander, Wisconsin, the first World Series. Let's put it this way, my cat didn't know how to swim. And so we did not do that. Well, I admire a cat sitting beside me, and he pulled it out, and I wish I would have talked to him that day. What's happening, Mass? Thank you. Could you guys come out here with me, please? I was afraid this would happen. I have had time remembering my name at times. But
That's where I got my wallet.
yeah. But down there, we had a tremendous day. That was my biggest winnings that day to us. Like I was taking home at the time probably $85 a week and living on it. And we went down that day and won 1 and 2, Mod 1 and Mod 2, and we took home $2,200, and I was so proud of that, man, and all of these things. Then I find out later on that the 650 and 800 class was making like $5,000. Talk about hurting your feelings. You win the Governor's Cup and everything, and you bring home 22. But no, that was a lot of fun. Okay, and thank you, everyone.
Steve, he's one of the great Vermont drivers, and Roger Poland, we got 2 Vermonters here.
Have your wife come up here.
Yes. Next, you in?
Yeah, there you have it. Steve Fenoff inducted
yeah.
into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame in 2021. Yeah, that was a great induction right there. Anything to add to that, Midge? Or?
Yeah. Steve, what he didn't mention is now, because he beat Bob Fortin, who we thought was going to win those 2 small races, because he dominated those 2 classes for 2 years running. What we haven't mentioned is Polaris factory was there. The Arctic Cat factory was there. The Snowjet factory was there. Every big name manufacturer had a tractor trailer parked on the other side of the backstretch of the Lancaster Fairgrounds. There's probably 10 or 12 fully equipped tractor trailers over there. And a little guy from St. Johnsbury, Vermont, came out onto the track in the 340 class and beat them all. So
that's amazing.
That's like David slewing Goliath.
Yes. Yeah,
Really.
absolutely. A giant slayer right there.
Yeah. And he did it going away. As I remember, he when he went by Bob Fortin, he gained in fact, Bob's engine blew after a while. Coming out of number 4 Turner's engine blew, and they had to pull it off the track.
Wow.
Yeah, and Frank Dodge came in second, but a distant second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, so he had a serious lead crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
There. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then there are also some notables under that tent there. Let me see if I can get over to that. Here we go.
Bill Abold.
Bill Abold, and then Diane and Jerry Baker.
Yeah.
Diane's got the pink, and to the right of her with the hat, that's Jerry Baker, her husband.
Yeah. Jerry.
Chip
Yeah.
Elwood.
Yeah. The lady in the pink, between Bill Abold and Diane, she was there for Bob Bottom's family.
Yes.
Yeah. And they couldn't make it. The two girls, and they live in Florida, and they just couldn't fly up for it. So she did the Betty Newell. She did the presentation, she stood in for them for Bob Bottoms, who was huge. I mean, Bob Bottoms was, the president of Timberland Machines.
Yeah, that's the beginning of
the
Ski-Doo brand in America.
Responsible for bringing the Bombardier Skidoo to America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ground zero right there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then in the striped shirt here on the left is Bill Abold and his wife, Kathy.
Yeah.
Behind Bill is Ed Stab. He was inducted in what, 18 or 19. And Heidi, Heidi's there on the left.
Yeah.
All you can see is just kind of her arm there. And Roger Poulin in the red shirt.
Yeah.
And then the yellow, is that Calvin Reynolds?
Calvin's there. Yeah. Calvin and Mary Ann.
Yeah. And then J.R. Tozier, I think.
Yeah.
And with the beard there, I think that's Herb Yancey.
Yes. Yes.
And is Ron Hall to the right of him?
And yeah.
That's a who's who of Eastern racing right there.
Yeah.
Looking at.
Oh, gee, yeah.
That's some big
In
names
fact,
right there.
Calvin stood up and said a few words about Bob Bottoms.
Yes.
Because he raced under the Timberland flag. Even though he was a main racer, he raced under the Timberland banner.
Yeah.
Yeah. He and Bruce Dunham.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool.
And then I was able to get an interview with Steve. I'm going to cue that up here in a moment. And one of the things I have to comment about is at these ceremonies, I always try to catch each of the inductees for an interview.
Yes.
And of course, things are happening fast. Sometimes I can get them and kind of pull them to the side for a quote unquote proper interview. Other times I just catch them where I catch them. And this was the case with Steve. I was doing the live feed with my cell phone and he happened to be near me. And I said, "Hey, Steve," I called him over and I got a quick interview with him. So that's what we're about to look at.
Yeah.
Like I said, I get the interviews when and where I can, just because that a lot of times that's what you can get. So let's take a look here.
So, Steve, do you have any memories of that winning the Kilkenny Cup? We're live on Facebook and YouTube. Any memories of winning the Kilkenny Cup? Of that day or that race? Yeah, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. Yes.
Actually, it was a real big thing. We was fortunate enough to win Lancaster, and that to us, of course, is the Daytona and cast iron and everything else. It was practice and everything was here, and I remember it well. I was running the second. The white flag came out, high in the day, and I came down sharp onto coming out of corner two, went into the Skidoo, and we drove on to victory, and that was the big for us, and we made it up. We were fortunate enough the year before, they had cross country and oval, and I lost an engine cross country. That was my strength, actually. So we felt pretty bad, but we came back the next day, the oval was, and we won that. So we won the oval 2 years ago, which is pretty special, which we all know. Your body Portland's and all the factors, it was a big deal. You and all the others, like I said, everything, and thank you much. Today's world's unbelievable. Somebody could be way off somewhere watching this. So
you're watching from everywhere.
In the 60s, it wasn't that way.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah.
This is a special day, and we need to thank you.
You're very welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Everyone out there.
Yes, well over water, by the way. Fist bump.
There you go. You don't always win, but there.
That's right.
Cool. Yeah. So like I said, you catch it where you can,
That's right. Yeah.
And I also want to give an honorable mention here. This gentleman sitting in the chair on the right is Greg Allen.
That's Greg. Yeah.
One of the board members for the Hall of Fame. And he's the one that we were talking about earlier who brought the PA and not the PA, but the tent and the flooring underneath. And then he's talking to your wife, Glinda.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would do without my wife helping me on that.
Yes, she does a lot.
Endeavor that we got into here, and and Greg, unsung heroes. These people in the background are the ones that make it happen, Mike.
Yes.
They're they're not in it for any glory or anything else other than just helping out, making sure everything goes smooth. My wife grabs the camera and she takes all kinds of photos. And Greg is a master at that camera.
He sure is. Yes.
Every year, and we don't know what we would do without him.
Yes. And he and I work very well together because he takes the footage with a camera where he can zoom in and get close-ups, and then he hands me the SD card, and then I do the editing and everything for the DVD and all of that. So he and I work together very well. And while he's, pardon me, while he's doing that, I'm taking some footage on my cell phone and going live with it. The handicap with my cell phone is I'm not able to zoom in close like he does. So that's why we have both of those things going. And this
it's good that you do, Mike, because if something ever happened to one of them,
we got backup. Yes,
you still got backup.
Yeah. And then and the other advantage too is, of course, I can go out live, which we're doing here. And I was catching him on my live feed off my cell phone here, and he just happened to be near me, and I called him over, and thankfully he came over and was able to catch him for a few words.
Yeah.
But
and a little background. I bought a couple of Hondas years ago when I was young. Back when I was in my 20s, I bought a couple of Hondas off from Benoit Honda in St. Johnsbury. And guess who the mechanic was that worked on my motorcycles?
Was it Steve?
Steve Fenoff.
Oh, wow. That's a small world.
He was a mechanic at Benoit's.
That's amazing.
And they sold motorski. So he really began racing for them on the motorski before he went out of cat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I'm glad we do this. It's a good chance to really get to know each of these inductees. And
so I knew Steve way back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. And like I said too, if you're enjoying this, we'd love it if you could join us at the Eastern Snowmobile Hall of Fame induction ceremony this coming September in Lancaster at Crane Snowmobile Museum. But where's that graphic? I'm going to do a quick plug here for the Crane Snowmobile Museum. In fact, we're looking at Steve here. We were inside the museum there. That's where that was all taking place, and you can see there were sleds there. And there's I think close to 100 sleds in there, aren't there?
Oh yeah, there's probably close to 150.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
And then you'll see on the wall too. There's all kind of artifacts and memorabilia hanging there, and clothing from back in the day, and just about anything related to snowmobiling from the late 60s, early 70s. Anything that he could find.
And right now, looking at the very extreme left of this photo, the Hall of Fame plaques go from on the opposite wall all the way over to just about where this stops now.
Nice.
Two complete
Let me see if
rows of them. So
I'm going to see if I panned around on that at all. Well, you see more to the right, but I don't think we're going to see much more to the left.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a whole lot to look at.
Actually, they go right over. See that yellow, that big Polaris sign, that big yellow and red sign?
Yeah.
They go right to that now.
Oh, yes, all the induction plaques. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that wall is filled right up. That's really impressive.
It's filled right up. We had to move all of that other stuff off the wall to make room for the new plaques.
Yeah.
So I think there's
that whole corner there.
Close to 40, 42, maybe plaques on the wall right now.
Yeah. And the nice thing too is that, even though this isn't the time of year when we do the ceremony, it's worth a trip to the Crane Snowmobile Museum so you can see all the induction plaques on the wall, all the snowmobiles, the memorabilia. Here again is the detail. Here are the details for Crane Snowmobile Museum. It is by appointment only. So you want to call ahead if you see that you're going to be going through Lancaster or to Lancaster. Give a call to that number and schedule a time for a chance to go in the museum and take a look. And if you go in there and enjoy it, please leave a generous donation. Paul puts a lot into that museum, and any donations really help to offset the cost of doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hope that you will either visit the museum and or join us at the upcoming ceremony in September. So I'm going to remove this, and we've got one more induction to look at. This is the very first induction of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. This is back to 2017. Bob Clark was the first racer to be inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. And before I cue that up, is there anything you wanted to say about that before we view that?
Bob started out working for his dad on construction. He operated a D7 Caterpillar bulldozer. He drove a Mack dump truck, and it appeared like he was, going to work for his dad and on a construction thing. And but then he decided that he wanted to be more of a mechanic, so he went to work at Roberts Motors, a Chevrolet dealer, GM dealer here in town, who also sold Mack truck. And so he went to work for Roberts, working on Mack trucks. And but he was also involved with the snowmobiling end of it. Roberts sold Skidoo. And Bob was the team manager of the team Roberts at the time. Tim White was one of who was in the Hall of Fame, Timmy White, and Lewis Cassidy was one of the team members. Lewis also did the engines, and Butch Roberts raced, and Johnny Roberts raced. And he caught the eye, Bob did, of the Harrington King Corporation down in Randolph, Mass, who was the Polaris distributor at the time. And they sent one of their salesmen up. His name was Ken Russell. They said, go up and see if you can talk Bob Clark into coming to work for us as a salesman. We think he would fit right in. So Ken goes into Roberts Motors. He asked if he can talk to Bob Clark, and they said, yeah, he's out back in the shop out in the Mack section. He goes out and he says, Bob Clark? And he heard a voice out from underneath the Mack truck. He was on a creeper, laying on his back, greased from head to toe in a pair of coveralls. And he slid out from under, and he was wiping his hands on a rag. He says, who wants me? And Ken looks down at him. Bob's still staring at him on the creeper. And Ken says, Mr. Clark, he said, I wanted to know if maybe you'd be interested in coming to work for us down in Randolph, Mass, he said, as a salesman for Polaris. And Bob looks up at him. He says, hell, man, he says, I'm a mechanic. I'm not a salesman. He says, you got the wrong guy. Well, Ken was a pretty good salesman by his own right, because he talked Bob Clark into actually leaving Lancaster.
Wow.
and traveling down just outside of the outskirts of Boston in Randolph, Mass, with his wife and his young kids. They were just babies at the time. He took a leap of faith, and Bob Clark started in the business of selling snowmobiles. And then in 1971, he was the team manager for Team Polaris East. And he sent more team members to the World Series in Boonville that year than any other team.
Wow. And
it helped get him the USSA members of the board, I guess, or the board of directors on USSA voted Bob Clark in as a team manager of the year.
Yeah.
So he went from sliding out from under a Mack truck to on top of the world in the snowmobile world. And he never stopped. He never looked back. So let's watch Bob. And he didn't want me to do any, he didn't want any of this. So you watch Bob when he gets his reaction.
That's right. He didn't know he was inducted that day. He thought
he didn't know anything about it. We blindsided the old guy. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, let's take a look. The very first induction for the Eastern Snowmobile
Very
Racing
first
Hall of Fame.
induction,
Here it comes.
2017.
We have 4 members that are going to be inducted. 4 members here today. There's Bruce Dunham, Bob Martin, Conrad Rollins, and Bob Clark. Bob didn't know about it. He didn't know about it. Let me give you the story on it. Bob's going to be the first to be inducted because we're going to go in alphabetical order. Bob, when I called him and told him about Paul and me getting this thing started, and I told him what we were going to, what the name of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame was, the first thing he said, you got to get rid of that name racing. He said, I want it called the Eastern Snowmobile Hall of Fame. I says, why? I said, it's about racing. He says, well, that's the problem. He said, how about Bob Bottoms? How is he ever going to get in there? I says, Bob Bottoms promoted racing. He was involved in the racing. He said, well, but he didn't drive. I said, doesn't matter. I said, he was involved. I said, if you, he said, well, how about Paul Doherty? I says, I don't give a hoot in hell how many times Paul Doherty went down into the Allagash. I said, Ted, why not? Wasn't it the other end waving a checkered flag? And this is about racing. So, to prove my point, all right, the first guy to get inducted is going to be a promoter. Okay. Robert Clark. Good stuff. Let me read his resume. Snowmobile racer promoter. Inducted into the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame for 2017. Charter member of the oldest snowmobile club in America, the Lancaster Snowdrifters. Bob helped to organize the first motorized toboggan race in New England while a member of the Lancaster JCs in 1962. He continued his efforts of promoting organized racing in Lancaster, New Hampshire, from competing in the first Grand Prix in 1964 to as many hours of volunteering in to becoming chairman of the Lancaster Grand Prix. Bob left Lancaster in 1969 for a full-time service manager's position at the New England Polaris distributor Harrington King Incorporated of Randolph, Mass. He was appointed as race team manager of Polaris East Racing Team in 1970. Under Bob's leadership, it became hugely successful, qualifying more drivers in this highly competitive sport for the World Series in 1971 than any other team in snowmobile racing. Bob was recognized for this great achievement by receiving the USSA Race Team Managers of the Year Award in 1971. In 1972, he took the job as a salesman for the new Polaris distributor Nelson Small in Portland, Maine, and later became the area rep for upstate New York and New England for Polaris Industries. Bob's resume of the promotion of snowmobiling and snowmobile racing is still being written from the 50th reunion of his beloved Lancaster Grand Prix in 2014 to present day events. Bob Clark's achievement in promoting of snowmobiling and snowmobile racing is nothing short of remarkable.
Tall enough, Ed?
You barely got that in my jurisdiction. That level?
Yeah.
We'll level it later. We'll level it later.
Okay, Muriel, you go up there now, please.
Do you want to say anything, dear? Okay, you don't need to.
Pretty well covered.
Come sit down.
Now, you gonna give him the other one?
That's yours to take home, Bob. Yeah.
Can you hold it up so we can see it, Bob?
Do like all the little kids and stuff. And that too.
Paul and Mitch, get on each side of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Paul, look up. Thank you, dear.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
we're all done now?
Apparently he had no idea. Thank you.
Doesn't get any better than that for the first
No, it
induction, does
doesn't.
it?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. And
No. Oh, we missed
the
Bob.
first of many.
Yeah. Yeah. Bob came every year after that. Well, you know, he wouldn't stay away. As sick as he was, poor Bob had Parkinson's, and of course it never gets any better. And as the years passed, he still had to come to the inductions no matter how bad he felt.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And of course we lost Bob here a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I have his trophies.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yeah. Muriel brought over the trophies, and we met her in St. Johnsbury, and we've got them in a couple of totes.
Good.
So I don't know what we're going to do with them, but at some point maybe we can display them at either the Snowmobile Museum or maybe at the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. And even though he didn't have a whole lot to say, you could tell that he was very happy with all of it.
He was pretty happy. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
And-
he was blindsided, so he had no idea.
Yes, equally surprised and pleased.
Muriel didn't
Pleasantly
spill the
surprised,
beans,
maybe.
And I had a couple of friends come over too to see it, and from over there, and they didn't spill the beans. And so Bob is like he was a little bit of a fog there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely a special moment right there.
But he had quite a time. You didn't want it called Snowmobile, Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame. He was afraid you wouldn't get any promoters.
Yeah.
So the first guy that go on the wall was the promoter.
Yeah, that's great.
That dispelled that rumor.
Yes. There he is. The moment of I think this is the moment here when he realized that he was being inducted.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a Kodak moment right there.
That was a Kodak moment right there. Yeah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Oh man. Of course now we have Ed Stabs up there as the promoter.
Yes.
Bob Bottoms is up there as a promoter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and a couple others.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And here we're looking at the founders of the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame right here. Midge Rosebrook and Paul Crane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Pretty
Oh,
good
we've got a comment that's come in. Glenn Ford says, great stories. Thank you for sharing. And we appreciate you being part of this with us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the time we have left, we're going to try to wrap it up by 10 o'clock. It's almost like Cinderella with the, how things change for her at the stroke of midnight. Well, for us, it's 10 o'clock. We have a 2-hour window and we have to be done by 10 or the whole thing shuts down on its own.
Yeah.
But we have some images. Let me back up the story. At the this last induction ceremony for the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame 2024 in September, Chip Elwood approached us, and he had this box, and he's got all kind of memorabilia in there, and stats from racing, images, artifacts, just loaded with all kinds of things. And he wanted us to have it. He wanted the Hall of Fame to have it, the museum to have it, and as part of receiving that, I was thinking, well, the thing that I can do with this podcast is maybe put some of this in front of people so that we can all enjoy it. So it's not just a box sitting in a corner somewhere. It's something that lives and that we can all enjoy. So do you want me to just kind of start popping these on the screen,
Yeah,
and
just
you'll talk
pop
these up?
them
As
in
we go?
and
All
we
right,
can go from there.
and they're in no particular order, by the way. But and again, thank you again to Chip Elwood for giving these to us, and we want to make sure that we get
We'd like
some
to get
mileage
Chip
with it.
on some night, actually.
Yes, definitely, because I'm sure he has some stories. But we want to show that we're worthy recipients of these items and sharing them so that everyone can enjoy them. So this is a clipping of an article. I don't know if we can really read it, but it's talking about Bangor. And did anything you wanted to add to what's going on with this article, Midge? Or
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to read.
It's hard to see.
Yeah, but
it's underlined there, I think, as far as Chip. I think this is where Chip got seriously hurt racing at Bangor on a 650 Arctic Cat.
Yes.
And that's when the throttle stuck on him coming down the main straightaway. And he had to bail off. And he's very seriously injured.
It looks like there was a fatality in there too. Brian Justison, age 28 of Penfield, New Hampshire, was killed in that on February 12th. Head injuries suffered when his machine flipped over north of the wall, or the north ice wall, I think it says.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the other rider was Chip Elwood. I can read some of this. In the Supermod 4 finals, Elwood jumped off his machine when the throttle, throttle something
stuck on him.
Yeah, coming into the first turn, he hit the wall, suffering a compound fracture of the upper leg and a broken shoulder, ruptured spleen, and kidney damage.
Yeah.
And we do have images of him laid up in the hospital with all of that, and we will get in fact, let me see if I can find that so we can do these kind of in some.
And this article, by the way, was written up by Bill Vint, who published the Warriors of Winter.
Oh, that book, yeah.
Bill Vint.
Nice.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And then here's Chip in the hospital on the left there, and then I can try to read this. It says, "Call it dedication. The following letter was received by the USSA Eastern Division office on February 18th. It says, I'm writing you in regard to the driver of the year for 1975. I realized Monday, February 10th was the final date for the nominations to be in, but I felt I should write anyway to let you know of a really dedicated racer. His name is Chip Elwood, and his USSA number is 9. Pardon me. On Sunday, February 2nd, he was involved in a very serious accident while racing in Bangor, Maine. He had to remain in intensive care for 4 days, and now he'll have to remain in the hospital for 6 weeks. While in intensive care, the first words he spoke after his operation were, 'Hey, Doc, do you think you can put a cast on this leg so I can race next weekend at Boonville?'" There's your dedication right there. And then it continues to say he wasn't kidding either. Every day without fail, he asked his doctor to hurry up and get the cast on so he could at least race at the World Series. He figured they could attach a cast that could be attached to his Arctic Cat and race that way. But as it is, he won't even be out of traction for 6 weeks. So he was in pretty serious shape there. And you can see in the image, his leg was all propped up in traction. And this continues. So you talk about dedication towards snowmobile racing. I believe, and so do many other racers, that Chip has all the dedication, skill, ability, and sportsmanship that one could ask for in a racer, and then some. Even if Chip isn't given the honor of driver of the year, in the eyes of many racers and fans, Chip will be number 1. Respectfully yours, friends and fellow racers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
there's
one time, Chip, a guy fell off and was laying in the track, and Chip stopped and parked his machine right in front of to shield that guy, and stopped to help him in the middle of a race.
wow.
And I think Chip was either leading or running second or something like that.
Wow.
And
That cost him
maybe
to do that.
going through a lap traffic, and this guy falls off, and Chip stops. And yeah, he had a chance to win the race, and instead he stopped to help a fellow driver.
There's good karma right there.
Yeah.
And I think this is the image of that accident where he ended up in this situation here.
Yeah.
Is this the accident where that happened?
I'm not sure if that's the same one. It could very well be. Somebody might have caught that. Because he sure is headed for the wall right there.
Yes.
Yeah. And he's bailing off, but yeah. Have to find out from Chip if that's the one.
Yeah, and you could tell there's some speed there too. So if he's hitting that wall with any kind of velocity, he's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks like about a 71 vintage cat, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and then we've got this. There's a Z. Do we know who's on this?
That's either Chip
that's
or
Chip,
Herb Yancey.
On the helmet, you look under the chin there, the full face helmet. It says Elwood.
Does it say Elwood? Okay.
Yeah. So either that or someone stole his helmet and his sled.
Yeah, that's Chip then. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is not very likely, but you never know.
And he had the fastest 650 in the country.
Wow, yeah.
By far.
Nice.
And in the 75 World Series, Chip came down, and by the way, his real name his name is Wayne Elwood, and nickname was Chip. At the 1974 World Series, he came down with a flu. He was qualified to run the World Series, but he just couldn't do it. And Herb Yancey was out there, and he had qualified, but his cat wasn't as fast as Chip's.
Yep.
So Chip says, "Why don't you try mine?" He said, "Take mine out and run that." And that's when Herb Yancey beat the factory teams and everything in 1974 to win the World Series at Eagle River.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, on Chip's sled.
Yeah, that's cool. Good thinking.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got. Here's some more racing shots.
Yeah.
And on the leader there on the back, I think that might be ELW.
That's Chip. He's number 11. Yeah.
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 That's cool. And then here's some articles. I just kind of put these together. I don't know if it's part of the same article or not, but there's Chip in there, and then in the upper left is Bill Abold.
Yeah.
The team manager. And then here's a closer look at that left page there.
Yeah.
And Chip at the bottom on the sled. That
looks like one of those formulas.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's a formula.
Yeah.
What they call them? Formula Ones?
I don't remember.
I'm not sure. But it had that funky front end on them, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that crossbar there.
Cable driven. Cable steer with the cables.
Wow.
Yeah. They only did that 1 year out of Cat.
Yeah. And we've got some snapshots here. It looks like Boonville, February 14th and 15th in 1970 for that left shot. Some trophies, or the trophy from that same weekend.
Yeah.
Second place overall, Class 3. And then on the right is trophies won at Malone, New York, also in 1970, the weekend before, 2 weekends before, January 31st, February 1st, 1970. Mm-hmm. And it looks like he's on, is that a Polaris that he's on?
Yeah, I believe he raced Polaris first, and then he went from there to race for the Widowmakers team. with Everett Regal.
Yeah.
And Kenny Young was on that team. That was a heck of a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got. Here's some more cats racing.
Yeah.
Probably Chip Elwood, but I can't tell for
I
sure.
think Chip, yeah.
I can't read any names or anything.
I think the guy on the inside is Kenny Young and Chip's on the outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here's a good shot of Chip.
Yeah.
And then, this is that accident.
Yeah.
And then this looks like possibly in an ambulance. Chip is on the left
just
there.
right after he had that bad accident and that hauling him to the hospital in the ambulance.
Wow.
Yeah. That might be his dad. He looks something like Chip.
Okay.
That might be his dad, but I'm not sure.
Gotcha. It does look like him, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And here we go, Chip in action.
Yeah.
And it's talking about the team able team drivers, Ron Hall, Chip Elwood, Herb Yancey.
Yeah.
So they were the local heavies for Arctic Cat in the East. Chip Elwood won or placed everywhere he raced and excelled in Super Modified 4. He raced only half a season as he was injured hitting the wall at Bangor at 80 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Wow, that's serious. Now we've got a comment that's come in. Let's read that real quick. Our good friend Josh Leviker is here saying good evening from Turin, New York. And Josh and I are working behind the scenes to bring him on the podcast sometime soon. Looking forward to that. And let's see, we've got some more snapshots here. USSA dinner meeting, April 18th, 1970. Troy, New York, 4th place, Class 1 and Class 3 at the Holiday Inn. There we go. And on the right, Chip and Kenny Young, USSA dinner, Holiday Inn, same evening, Troy, New York, April 18th, 1970. Taking home some awards.
Yeah.
And Ken Young is inducted into the Hall of Fame too, isn't he? The Eastern Snowmobile
Yes, he
Racing Hall of
is.
Fame? Yeah, I thought
Yes,
so.
he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was his son there to receive it for him, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I can't quite think of his name right now.
I can't either.
His son came.
Yeah.
Because his dad wasn't well.
Yes.
He just had I think a hip operation or something.
Yeah.
And so he couldn't make it. Yeah.
And then we've got this is going to be Chip. I think it says Chip on his helmet, and it's an autographed picture.
Him.
So being that number 5 we were looking at earlier, that must be the same number 5 on the left there,
that's Chip.
Which you believed that was the case. And then, like I said, these are in no particular order here. Is this does it say Chip Elwood on the upper side of that slide?
Yeah. I think that's 70. It's a 74 cat, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, here's the image we looked at where he was laid up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Here's some more images.
Yeah.
It says injured driver recovering. So this is maybe a few weeks after that or something, after the injury.
Yeah.
Some more images. Snowmobile Trophies, Boonville. Also Redfield, New York, and I can't make out that Marionville, New York, or Marionville, PA. Am I reading that right?
Rhinelander. Redfield.
On the right, yes, Rhinelander, Wisconsin, Class 3, 5th place. Copenhagen,
Marionville, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Heck, you can't even get snow in Pennsylvania anymore, let alone race snowmobiles.
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
these winters.
But yes, they actually raced in Pennsylvania back then.
Wow.
Yeah, and believe it or not, Massachusetts, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. You wouldn't have snow for that today.
Heck, you can't get snow up here.
It's true. Yeah, the last few winters we've been getting skunked. And this might possibly be from the VSCA magazine, but we're not sure. In the text below, though, it references VSCA, so it's quite possible that was from the VSCA magazine, but I'm not certain.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't quote us
Beautiful
on
sleds.
it. Yes. Some nice Polaris there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
cats.
yeah.
And then here's an article just like the good old days.
Yeah.
And here's some trophies from Boonville and Malone,
Yeah.
1970. And this is back in the days when he was riding a
Yeah.
Polaris.
Yeah, I think that's
And
a
you can-
1970 Charger.
Sure.
Yeah,
And you can tell just looking at his face that that's him.
yeah, that's him. That's him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's probably a 440
Sure.
by the looks of those jugs.
Oh, I think it says 400 on the side, but
The
it
400. Okay,
it doesn't mean that's
400 and
what's in
400. Yeah, you
I think
can't
so.
tell by what it says on the cowl
It might be a bigger
on the
engine.
Polaris.
Sure.
The 295, I think they call that. I think the 295 and the 340, they call it the 300 on the cowl. In the 440, they call it the 400.
Sure.
It's kind of a screwy way of that they they should have just had it 440.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Incidentally, Chip Elwood shows up at the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony every year as well.
Yes, he does.
So if you're intrigued by these, I mean, he's another legendary racer that you could meet and greet and have a photo opportunity with. And he's a
And Herbie
wonderful
Yancey
guy.
comes.
Yes, Herbie Yancey and
Yeah.
Paul Lamontagne and
Yeah.
yeah, and Ed Stab comes every year.
Ed Stab comes.
Yeah, just it's a who's who of Eastern racing from the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all wonderful people to hang out with.
Yeah. Bob Martin comes every year.
Yes. Yeah, let's see what else we've got. Here's some images. This looks like probably from a newspaper or magazine.
Yeah.
It's kind of cut off on the edges there, but
Yeah.
nice looking cats. Here's an LT gray. Probably, Chip. What do you think? Anything on
Yeah,
that?
I would say it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I think he had number 9, 11, number 5.
So that Beatles song, when they're saying number 9, they were writing about this, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's got to be it. Actually, the timing is all wrong, but then a whole lot of other things wrong too. But
Engine number 9.
yes, you go for the jokes where you can, you know.
Yeah.
But oh, here's a cool shot. Anything about this? Anything to say about this?
Well, he's getting down low.
Yeah.
Looks like he's coming out of a corner and skis right in the air. I mean, those tracks were anything but smooth.
Yeah.
Back then.
I'll bet. Yeah. Get pretty
before they started, utilizing an all ice track. It was,
get pretty mealy.
They were so rough.
Sure. And then we've got the results from the 1970 State Fair race.
Yeah.
See if there
Players
are
did pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking to see if there are any names there that I recognize.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Class 3, Chip Elwood in the drags, number 2.
Yeah.
Of course, they're referring to him as Wayne
That's in
Elwood.
drag racing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Herbie Yancey, class 4, drags.
Yeah.
Number 1, of course, which is to be expected.
Yeah.
And he got number 2 in the speed ovals. On Cat. Class 5. Yeah,
Herbie
I don't
Yancey
recognize.
came here one year and cleaned up the grass drags right behind Timberland Machines,
Nice.
right in their backyard. And here he comes with an Arctic cat.
Nice.
Beat Bobby Fortin and all those guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Herb comes to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony
He
every
comes
year.
every year.
I don't think he's missed one. Not that I know of, anyway. And here's another. Now that's Ron Hall with the big grin and the trophy there. That might be the trophy he was talking about, or one of them.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah. Imagine 15 straight wins.
Unreal.
It is.
Yeah, I'll read that. Ron Hall rode their 250 to over 15 straight feature wins, won 22 races overall, and placed in 18 more. He was high point man in the 250 and 440 super modified classes and earned the East's #1 gold bib.
Amazing.
That is, yeah.
Phenomenal.
And that explains why the big smile.
Yeah.
That's something to smile about right there.
Yeah.
Good for him.
It's pretty good for a guy that never rode a snowmobile until he was 27 years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And such a good guy, too. Such a nice guy to hang out with.
Ian Terry, just the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's the last image. This is a really cool image.
Yeah. Everett Regal in the front, and Kenny Young in the middle, and Chip Elwood in the back.
Yeah. On a stretched links, I think that is.
Yeah, yeah.
With a wheel kit on the sled and the trailer.
I don't know how they did that. They did a beautiful job on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Now we've got a comment that's come in. Let's see. Eric at Benedim, the Benedim YouTube channel says, "Great show, guys. Off to bed for me. I will watch the rest tomorrow." Well, cool. We appreciate you tuning in.
Okay.
And we are just about to wind it down anyway. That's about everything we had.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was a lot of fun tonight, and we encourage you, if you enjoy all of this that we're doing, to please join us at the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony this coming September. We believe it's the second Saturday in September. And if you're curious, reach out to us and we'll confirm that for you. And as we have finalized that exact date, we'll have that announced here and on the other podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, another comment's come in. Let's take a look. Our good friend Tim Bewick says, "Good show, Mike and Midge." Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate you tuning in. I know you were here at the beginning. We appreciate you staying through the whole thing. Very cool. So any final thoughts, Midge, before we wind her down? Or?
Just a lot of memories that of days gone by. I don't think we'll ever get them back again, and I think it's just a good thing to keep them alive.
Yes.
Thank goodness for Mike LAPIERRE to be doing this for everybody. You get a little insight in what it was like back 40, 50 years ago. Yeah, when the sport was brand new and just a lot of excitement. And sleds weren't $25,000 a pop, back then.
Yeah, it was an amazing time.
Yeah.
I was just a little kid at the time, and it made a huge impression on me. And for the joy that gave me, I'm happy to do what I can with this podcast to try to keep these memories and stories alive, and this history alive. And I've enjoyed working with you on this to do this. It's a wonderful collaboration to try to keep this all alive. These stories.
And the thing with me is these guys all came to Lancaster. I was a big Carl Yastrzemski fan, Red Sox fan, Ted Williams, guys like that, but they never came to Lancaster.
It's true, right in your own hometown. It doesn't get better than
Herb
that.
Yancey came to Lancaster. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Bruce Dunham came to Lancaster. And they were my heroes.
Yes. Now we've got this last comment, Yana and Ken from New York. Let me pop that image of them real quick. because I had a chance to meet them a month or so ago. That's the couple in the back there. So I really appreciate them viewing this podcast tonight. It's great that you were hanging out with us. And yeah, next time you're going through, or next time we're going through there, we'll have to get together again. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Midge, for coming on, and thank you to the viewers, and thank you to the inductees, and also to Chip Elwood for these wonderful photos we've been looking at here for the last 20 minutes or so. Yeah, that was a big contribution that he made to the Eastern Snowmobile Racing Hall of Fame and Crane Snowmobile Museum. And I'm going to pop a graphic for Cranes here one more time, give them some love here. And if you ever see that you're going to be in or near Lancaster, worth checking out the Crane Snowmobile Museum. There's over 100 sleds in there, and it is by appointment only. So this number on the screen, you want to call ahead and schedule a visit if you see you're going to be going through there. And it's by donations. Please donate generously if you like what you see, because he puts a lot of work into this. Paul Crane does, and any donation you make helps to offset his costs of keeping that going.
And Paul just acquired a B-12 Bombardier a little while ago, and he's building an addition onto the museum with which to house that.
That's a snow coach, the B-12?
Yeah, those the buses.
Yes.
The big
with the wooden body.
The 12 passenger.
Nice.
And it's an original unmolested model. It's never been painted. It's in great shape, and Paul plans on maybe giving rides to people this winter.
I can't wait to see that.
So
I'd like to go for a ride in that too,
especially when he has his snowmobile show in February. He usually has it first weekend in February every year.
Yes, first Saturday in February.
Yeah, and so if there's any snow, he may give people rides in that B-12.
And he's got a Model T snowmobile, or Model T with a snowmobile kit on it that he gives rides with periodically as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my wonderful girlfriend, Carlene Perry, is making comments saying thank you to Mike and Midge for a wonderful podcast. Thank you for viewing.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right. Well, this time we're really going to do it. We're really going to close it out.
Okay,
yeah, thank
Mike.
you, everyone. Have a good one, and we will see everyone soon. Thursday night.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one.